Oh, hey, welcome back. Good morning. Welcome back to WKNI. We've got Eric Peterson from SERVPRO here. Eric, once again, thank you. Lots of good information coming out. We have personal experience that we can testify to here with you and share with our viewers. You know, when a fire or a catastrophic event happens in your home, your whole mind just goes blank. I was standing in the center of the living room, and my wife was sweeping the floor. Okay, and you know, I'm sure you've seen the pictures. You weren't here when but there's nothing to sweep. You know, it's a shock, is what it turned out to be. And you know, she's doing her thing of trying to clean up. You know, afterwards, and there was no cleaning that up. And people, it's a direct shock to the system.
And it's a natural instinct to want to do some cleaning and things yourself, particularly after a fire. But you really have to be careful, and I can't stress that enough, of how sensitive your materials are at that time to permanent damage. And so there's a process that you do it. In fact, that's one of the reasons we created a brochure on what to do until help arrives. There was a family locally that had a fire. I went by the scene, and no one was there, so I taped this brochure and my card to their door so they could call if we could be of assistance.
So you ambulance chase?
Well,
I'm just
I don't know if I would describe it quite like that, but at the same time, people don't know what they don't know.
Right, I know.
And so we want to make sure that they are aware that there are companies there to help. I know, to help.
The other guys would have been out there too, I'm sure, if they knew it.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, and that's really the way it is in our business. There's several companies that we compete with that, you know, and typically, because normally the first people there are the ones who secure the work a lot of times. And
in our case, the insurance company, you know, because the first thing I thought of, well, one of the firefighters came back from a leisure firefighter. They left a piece of equipment to ventilate the house for a little bit, and they came back and they saw me, and they know I was a fireman. They knew what I did for a living, you know, in Florida. And he said, "Eddie, you're in shock." I said, "Well, I don't know what to do." And I started to break down. I said, "I've been on the other side of this. I've never been in the middle of it."
All right.
And he looked at me and he says, "Eddie, out of all the people I know, you have insurance." And I went, "Yeah."
That's right.
And I picked up the phone, immediately called Ron Nall, our insurance agent from State Farm here, and within 2 hours, the wheels were rolling. We had checks in our hand to go stay somewhere, and we stayed at the Best Western for about 10 days.
Right.
Y'all came out. You know, they contract with y'all or whatever. Some insurance companies do that. Some don't. Yeah, you're on your own. Thank goodness for State Farm. And they're you know, like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. I've said that on this show hundreds of times, and you can't say, you know, anything bad about, well, except Ron Nall and his collegiate, you know, I won't go there.
Easy now.
Yeah, I know. And Robin's a sweetheart as well as, what's the other lady's name? Janice?
Yeah.
Okay, but all sweethearts over there, and include Ron. You know.
Oh, they're good people, no doubt.
And he's, you know, he's good people, and they had our, you know, interest at, you know, in their best, or how do you say it? They had our best interest, okay, in mind every time we talked to them, and during the whole 4 months during that time period. So, you know, I'm not plugging Ron, but you know, when it's right, it's right. And
well, that's when people typically think about their insurance, is when there's a problem. You know, you don't get the warm fuzzy when you write your premium check. You know, it's when something happens and you need insurance.
Right.
It's when you really see what your insurance decision really is. And having an agent that's hands-on I think is important. So you know, kudos to Ron for being hands-on.
I'm not saying anybody else is
yeah, and
bad.
there's a lot of really, I work with all the insurance agents here, and there are a lot of very, very good insurance agents.
My experience with that particular agent has been just beyond. expectation.
And
And he's a Knowles fan too, and that just I had to say it, Teresa. I had to. I'm sorry.
well, we won't hold that against him.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Too bad.
I'm kidding, Ron.
But that, you know, I think that's one of the strengths that SERVPRO brings to our community is that we have corporate relationships with all of the insurance companies, and with State Farm, we're a national account, and most of the corporate assignments that come from a water or fire damage through State Farm and a lot of other carriers, it goes to SERVPRO corporate and is funneled to our franchise.
Well, one of the things I found just incredible was within, I think, the next day or so, one of your representatives had come to the house. Ron told us that was going to happen. And, you know, he went through the house. And, in fact, y'all, just so everybody knows, they just don't clean stuff. They have the ability to go from the bottom up. In other words, you all had, you know, could have replaced and R&R, removed and replaced everything in the house, painted it, the whole, everything.
We do everything.
And so it's not just, you know, the cleanup portion. You've got it all.
That's right.
And that's not like some of the other, you know, folks out there that do this for a living. And that's important to know.
Well, statistics show and research shows that after a catastrophic event, the smaller the number of contacts that a insured or homeowner has is better. And so Wesley and Micah, the owners of SERVPRO, Greenville, Troy, Andalusia, decided to offer an expanded suite of services, including construction services. So when you see our national commercials and it says like it never even happened, that's really the experience that we're bringing to the residents in our area. Everything from emergency services to complete construction and put back, and so everything. So we really want it to be like it never even happened.
And I want to tell everybody, too, that Wes is a former insurance adjuster. So the experience comes with, he knows what the insurance companies are going to accept or not accept.
Right, and he is very quick to point out that on the back end that none of his estimates are rejected, because he writes them with the mind and the eye of an adjuster, and that simplifies the process for the insured. It makes it easy for the insurance company. So we want the process. It's traumatic enough when you see all your stuff either floating or you know, charred up and with fire damage, but to make the process streamlined and easy is what we try to do, so that it doesn't add to the traumatic event for our customers.
Well, like I say, folks, again, we're talking mostly about fire here, and I'm sure they can see the ad up there in front of us, and we've got water and mold. Now, a lot of people...
There's a lot of mold here.
Yes, and you know...
I guess there's some trade-offs to living in God's country, but mold here in the South is a lot.
Florida's got a lot of mold, and South Alabama's got a lot of mold. And with all this rain out there, okay, we've had some flooding in some areas. What should, let's say, all right, somebody's house had 6 inches of water come up just above the shoe, what do they call that? Shoe board, whatever they call it. Baseboard. And do they have anything to worry about?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Mold needs 3 things really to thrive. Moisture. Normally a moisture level over 65 or 60%, 55 to 60%, relative humidity level. Temperature between 65 and 85, just like today.
There you go. Right after all this rain.
And a food source, which is any organic material. And a lot of times it's the water that you don't see that causes the most damage. The inside of walls, the unfinished paper on the backside of drywall. Who thinks about that? Insulation. A lot of times insulation, especially cellulose insulation, once it's wet, it's no longer insulation. It's debris. It doesn't have, it reduces the R value to the point where it's negligible. It's so it needs to be replaced anyway. So in a situation where you've got 6 inches of water, where you see a line 6 inches of water, on the back side of that drywall, it's probably 12, 18 inches because it just wicks up.
Right.
It's unfinished. And so we do a service of free moisture check. So if anybody has that situation, call us and let me come out and put a meter on it instead of saying, well, yeah, that looks good. Be sure, because it's not the water that you see that does the damage.
And mold is not healthy.
Mold is not healthy. It'll kill you.
Right.
I mean,
and people have carpets and rugs and furniture that get wet. Yeah. I mean, even firemen, okay, they have a tendency to spray a lot of water in a fire.
Oh, yeah.
Okay? So things get wet. And those things have to be maintained,
that's right,
you know, by people like yourselves. I'm fascinated with the ozone thing. Does the ozone help water damage too?
No, in fact, ozone, if it's wet and you put an ozone machine in there, everything that's liquid, it turns into peroxide.
Oh,
I learned that the hard way. I did a ozone the house for a lady in Birmingham, and she had a pile of clothes on a tile floor in a bathroom. Well, I didn't think anything about it. We turned the ozone machine on, come back the next day, and those clothes looked like you'd poured Clorox on them or something. Like, whoa.
There you go, and I'm sure you replaced that for the lady.
She tossed them. It was a move out.
Right. Well,
and we do a lot of rental houses where we go in after one tenant and clean it and
so you
and
provide services for landlords as well?
Oh, we do a lot of that. Yes, sir. We have a complete cleaning service. We do, you know, while I say we're the company that you hope not to call, I tell people there's 2 lists that I want to be on as your vendor, and that's the, oh my Lord, I hope I never have to use you list, right, and then your preventative maintenance list, right, where we do things like carpet cleaning and stain removal. We follow a lot of the other
You can come in
cleaners.
and actually do furniture and things
upholstery,
like that. Right.
You know, and while our processes, and people think of us for emergency situations where things are really contaminated with soot or with worse, just think of what we do when that stuff is not there. So, yeah, you know, we have several different levels of cleaning, and so the price may vary. We typically are a little more expensive than some of the others, but nobody follows us.
Right.
You know, it's
a lot of folks follow you and your stuff that you do, and
yeah,
and they claim that they, because I know as a post-fire victim, boy, I'll tell you what, I had some winners come out here and say, hey man, I can do that job, you don't have to pay them. And when you see the old beat up pickup truck pulling up the driveway, you go, what's that all about? And then they have this, they went down to one of the local markets here and rented a carpet, cleaner,
right,
and you know what I'm talking about. Y'all, it was very professional. Want to get back to the mold and water, because obviously we have that issue today.
A lot.
I mean, right now.
In fact, the photo that you held up,
if
you look on the back of it,
it was full of mold.
A lot of microbial growth on there.
And we're not going to let you put that in the ozone machine.
No. No.
But people don't realize how unhealthy that is. They'll sit there and the carpet will be full of mold, and just wash it with a
And too, in the medical community, it's often misdiagnosed.
A lot of allergies.
A lot of allergies. I've seen a fibromyalgia diagnosis that once we did the mold remediation project at this lady's house, miraculously it went away. Or over time. It took 6 months to a year, but it started getting progressively better from the first week. So, I mean, I've seen it make people's hair fall out. I've seen it make splotchiness on your skin. People react to it different ways. And
so next time I walk up to somebody that's hair challenged, I can say, oh, you must have mold in your house. We won't mention nobody's name right now.
But that's, and because it's so difficult to detect in our bodies,
right,
then it's often misdiagnosed by our medical community. And
It causes infections on open wounds.
Oh, yeah.
You know, in the medical field, people think mold's great because penicillin is mold. No, folks, you can't take the bread mold.
Well, there's different species. There's a couple of hundred species of mold, and that's one of the reasons why I'm really careful, because mold, the word mold, has a particular meaning, like the term organic. It's been defined by our government as a certain thing.
Right.
And so I can't go into somebody's house and say, oh, well, you got mold, even though I may know it in my mind because I've been around it for 10 years. But,
right.
you know, I'm allergic to particular types of mold, and in Birmingham they called me the mold detector. I'd go in places where they didn't even know they had it, and I'd start itching and my nose would start running.
And he's got plenty of hair, so you know he hasn't lived in it.
Not long, I can't. So, you know, there's things that that can be done, but the biggest thing is there's always moisture that creates the problem. So
there's a problem existing before the mold.
Most of the time,
right.
99% of the time.
We got to do something that's called a commercial break so we can pay for all this stuff, and we appreciate you coming on. Eric, we're going to talk a little bit about your office that you've got downtown now, or actually just off the bypass there next to Winn-Dixie.
Right.
What's the address there?
1606 East 3 Knott Street.
If you remember, folks, it's that white building, kind of wedge shape. Danny had a floral shop there for years.
The old timers like me will remember it as Roscoe's Grocery.
Is that
Mr.
what it was?
Roscoe Worley had a grocery store there for
Oh, that's right. You're
my
from
whole
this area.
childhood.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. I forgot to mention that, folks. He is from here.
I'm a native Andalusian.
And he's back home, and he's our SERVPRO representative in this area, and done a mighty fine job with us. I can bear witness to the honesty and sincerity of this company here in this community. So if you have an issue, whether it be fire, water, mold, anything to clean up, if you're a landlord, you know, I'm telling you,
one of the
my
big
wife
things
is a good cleaner.
Yeah.
All right, she's a good cleaner. I mean, but boy, you need to give her some lessons on some of the stuff that y'all clean. I don't mean that badly, okay? But you got things clean that I've been looking at for years, going, boy, how do you clean that? And it's done.
Mm-hmm.
And I was fascinated with the photographs and the artwork.
Mm-hmm.
I may talk a little bit about that too. We had a very nice piece of art that there was only 400 and some prints made of it. I've got print number 265,
Mm-hmm.
and you know, valuable. It's not that. It's the artist and what it represents. That was in the little foyer room that burnt, okay? And there was fire damage all around that frame. And
Charred pretty good.
Charred pretty good. And I accused him of taking it out, getting a new frame, and having it painted because you can't see where it was burnt.
I tell you, our ladies that do fire cleanup, I would put them against anybody cleaning. Some of the things that I would have really considered putting on an unsalvageable list, they'll say, no, bring that back, I can clean it. And
well, look at this picture here just for a second. Smoke got in there. I don't do nothing about it. What would happen?
It'd stay there.
It'd stay there, and will it chemically react?
It could very well. Depends on the material of the canvas and of the paint itself. But it could very well deteriorate over time.
I know pictures that will, the glossy pictures and the stuff like that you have hanging up a family.
Absolutely. And one thing we didn't mention is documents. I did a fire for a lawyer's office, and they had just hundreds of documents that were irreplaceable.
We were just talking about lawyers earlier. You had a fire one? Really? Golly.
I don't know if they caught the guy that said it. No, I'm kidding.
We're just saying how many lawyers we have.
Or medical offices or places where there's a lot of documents that would be difficult to replace. There's a certain process you need to do with those too. So, you know, if you have documents that are affected by an event, please don't try to do a lot yourself, because it will, you could permanently damage those.
And that's what I told the people that were here when they were taking the artwork down. I said, don't worry about that. You know, there's nothing you can do with it. I argued with somebody for 5 minutes about that painting I just told you about. Said, look, how are you going to fix this?
I've seen them water damage where it looked like it just had run the paint had just deteriorated terribly, and I've seen them restore those things, and it's absolutely amazing what we can do sometimes.
So if anything happens to the Mona Lisa, you'll be there ready to take care of it.
Ready. I'm not sure if we have a SERVPRO franchise there, but
somebody ought to check the Vatican, because it might be mold that got the Pope. So we don't know. But folks, we'll be right back. We got to pay some bills and go ahead and get our sponsors out there once again. We want to thank Eric Peterson for coming on. We're going to come back with him again and talk a little bit more about some events that are coming up in the community that you can partake in and learn more from. Our Susan Harris has put together something here in Covington County. We're going to be starting to talk about that here. We were waiting until it got a little closer, but y'all are involved in that. Some great things she's putting together to make us aware of what services are available in the community and who's out there to do them, and SERVPRO certainly is one of those. And we appreciate y'all watching. Stay with us. You're going to learn more about a lot of things that you thought. Okay, you just shake your head and go, that ain't going to happen. I'll tell you.
Life happens.
I thought I was in a Harry Potter movie when y'all brought those boxes back. It looked like somebody just took a wand and poof, it was beautiful. But, you know, the only thing I have to ask y'all is when you bring the boxes in, you know, I'm an old guy. I've got to open up every one of those boxes and put the stuff back up. And, you know, that was tough on me.
Don't put so much tape on it.
There you go. There you go. I have cuts and slices on my finger. You know, I just like take my thumbnail and run down it and open it up. And, you know, Teresa's back there saying, that goes there, that goes over there. And here I am having to do all this labor. So you might consider that. Anyway, folks, I'm in so much trouble. We love y'all. Thanks for tuning in.
Keep it real.
Keep God in it. We love y'all. Be right back.